Izayia Williams just recommitted to Florida State. I said recommitted. He decommitted from Florida State, then he committed to Florida, then he committed to Ole Miss, then he just committed to Florida State again. So we're going to watch him right now. Really good athlete. This kid's a hell of a football player. 6'1.5", 215 from Tavares, Florida. At 6'1.5", he's going to be a bit on the shorter end, but when you actually see his arm length, I think he's got the wingspan to kind of make up for that lack of height. You know, we're talking about a lack of height, not necessarily a lack of length. I don't think he's crazy long, but I think his arm length is certainly sufficient to play linebacker at the next level. So why is Izayia Williams so highly touted, right? Why are schools keep trying to flip him and then reflip him and then recommit him? It's because of his athletic profile. This kid has got real sideline to sideline speed. We'll see that show up again and again, but what really sticks out is the explosiveness. Now, every now and then the read and react will happen a bit slower, and we'll see him just kind of second guess, but when he really sees it, when he comes downhill, you know, he just lays the wood, and we're going to see that again. You know, that's what really excites me about Izayia Williams is the frame, because he's only 215 right now, and I think he's got a lot of room to add a lot more weight, but it's also the explosiveness, you know, that first step. You know, this play, he just absolutely lights this kid up. This is my favorite play on the highlight tape. Oh, my God. Every time I see it, it's more and more violent. You know, just a walking car accident, Izayia Williams. And we're not going to see him do a lot of this. You know, this is what's going to happen at the next level, is him come off the edge right here. This is how we take advantage of that explosiveness. And you know what? I'll say he has plus length. Looking at his arm length right now, he's probably a bit closer to 6'3" wingspan, maybe even longer than that. But really like the way he turns the corner here. You know, if he's an edge rusher, we'd be talking about the bend, the explosiveness plus the bend. I think he's got the traits to situationally pass rush. I don't think this is a guy that we're going to ask to play stand-up very often. You know, interesting defense, Florida State. More of a 3-3-5 transitioning from that four-man front. Going to be interested to see how he fills in exactly there, but you know, I think this is a guy with off-ball linebacker stuff, the athleticism. I think that's something we're going to see him do a bit more at the next level, is that pass rush, because he's got the traits to come off the edge and get after the quarterback. He just doesn't do it a lot in high school because of the role he's asked to play. But yeah, really physical football player. That's how the athleticism kind of gets married to that physicality, is because of how aggressive those movements are coming downhill. So like I said, every now and then you'll see him just kind of get caught up a little bit. I'm not worried about that. Honestly, I'd rather see these linebackers be very green to the position in high school, because if they're second guessing in high school, you know, I'm trusting my college football coaches to kind of help them understand the flow of the game a bit better, and then we can get him playing even faster than that. You know, he's flying all over the field in high school. As he starts getting an understanding of the game of football, I think this is a kid with a lot of upside wherever he ends up, whether it's Gainesville, Syracuse, Tallahassee, Oxford. I know I forgot one. Louisville. All jokes aside, you know, it's college football recruitment in 2026. I know a lot of people make character assessments about a kid flipping and reflipping. You never know what's going on behind the scenes. I don't think any less of him. I'll tell you that for committing and all that. That's not what I do. We watch him as a football player. This kid's a hell of a football player, you know, regardless of all that stuff. I don't really care about it. You know, I wouldn't be any less excited to have this kid on my roster because of it. I'll say that. So we don't see a lot of pass dropping here in the high school film, and I think I've only watched up to this far, about 3 minutes in. You know, we saw him come off the edge, how flexible the hips are. I think that translates also to him as a pass dropper. You know, I don't really care if we see it in high school or not, as long as we see the traits that kind of translate to being successful in that level. You know, I see a lot of people talk about linebackers, especially, like, you won't see them pass drop that much in high school, and they think they can't do it. Well, you know, if they have the flexible hips and we see that in a capacity that isn't pass dropping, I feel good about him in that role going forward. But this right here, this is what gets me really excited, because he's going to do a lot more of this at the next level. You know, get after the quarterback. Man, this is an RPO, and it's very difficult to mess this whole play up here. You know, that's a very quick read for the quarterback, and he got there in two seconds. But that was Izayia Williams. You guys let me know what you think about him. Any other players in this 26 class you want me to check out. Thanks for watching.